CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, number one, number two in the draft, always going to be connected, was a popular talking point around here early on in the season, 6 games in to their respected career. CJ Stroud has the clear upper hand. The two will meet in a week plus. What could Carolina do to give Bryce Young some of that momentum and perhaps close the gap? It's going to hurt me to talk about it, but I'm going to do it in the locker room.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do.
CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, always going to be connected. Grew up in the same state. They're friends. We've talked a lot about them, and it was a popular debate during the draft. I was a Bryce Young guy. Many people were Bryce Young guys, but right now, nobody in their right mind can say, just based on what we've seen right now, that CJ Stroud doesn't have the upper hand, and no one in their right mind can say that it's not a significant upper hand. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Exclusive Texans guests throughout the week. We're at all the games, so be sure to subscribe, like, right along, whether you're a Texans fan or not. A lot of times it's, immediately, and the guy never looks back. Sometimes there's a little seesaw battle between guys in draft classes. You see them going back and forth when it comes to one being the toast of the league, the other being the toast of the league. They go back and forth. In this instance right now, CJ Stroud's off to a historic start, and Bryce Young is leading the only winless team in the NFL. And it goes without saying that CJ Stroud has a significant hand. You're hearing reports out of Carolina that they wanted CJ Stroud to begin with. Frank Reich is talking about doing play calling, not doing play calling, making it easier, all that type of stuff. It seems to be a chaotic situation with bad ownership, a lack of stability, and I don't know if they're in dumpster fire territory yet, but there are context clues that Carolina could potentially be a dumpster fire. And that brings us to little less than 10 days away, CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young, 9 days to be exact. We're going to get our first look on the field of these two guys. This is one of the games that we've hyped up for a while. You looked at it immediately. You said, could this be primetime? Could this be primetime? Could this be primetime? No, nobody expects either one of these teams to be good. Texans are okay. Carolina Panthers are worst team in the league. So it ain't going to be primetime, but it is a big game. And I think it's almost like, I don't want to say it's like Carolina, old school 1-win college team beating a powerhouse and rushing the field, but it is what Carolina needs in order to feel good about themselves. They need to have some sort of clue, some sort of hope that Bryce Young can validate being selected 1 and CJ Stroud being selected number 2. A lot of times it's not your fault. A lot of times it's about your surroundings, which brings me to this. What is the one thing that Carolina could do that could maybe shift things for Bryce Young? Maybe not shift them in his favor, but shift things for Bryce Young. Could it be bringing in a new head coach and being one and done with Frank Reich? Could that be what the Carolina Panthers need to do? And could they do that and hurt CJ Stroud along the way? I have a question for you, and I come with some data, however you want to pronounce it. The question is, how do dysfunctional organizations become stable? And in recent NFL history, like at the snap of a finger, not like over time becoming stable, but how have some of the most dysfunctional organizations, let's say the last 5 or 6 years, how have they become stable? How have they flipped the switch? The answer is obvious. You hire the right coach, you get the right quarterback, all that type of stuff. Quarterbacks can save all butts, yada, yada, yada. But there is one trend that in the last 5-6 years, teams have put to practice in order to escape embarrassingly obvious dysfunction. So the question is, how did the dysfunctional organizations become stable? The answer is simple. They hire Shanahan guys. They hire either Shanahan himself or they hire guys from the Shanahan tree. And allow me to elaborate on this. 2017, San Francisco 49ers. They were coming off the back end of the Jim Harbaugh era. It ended abruptly. You had Jim Tom Sula 1 year. You had Chip Kelly the next. Jed York. I remember Jed York was getting completely disrespected. They were calling him a trust fund baby. They were calling him incompetent. They were saying San Francisco was a dumpster fire. What did he do? What did he do? He made a phone call to Atlanta. Kyle Shanahan was coaching Matt Ryan that year. Matt Ryan was an MVP candidate. And Kyle Shanahan said, you know what? This guy can work with quarterbacks. I'm going to bring him in. Jed York said that. He brought Kyle Shanahan in. Rest is history. Righted the ship. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody even really remembers. Some might. The San Francisco dumpster fire. That was 2017. 2022, the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, they had a quarterback out of Alabama, early draft pick. He was struggling. Brian Flores had Tua, borderline wanting to kill himself. Brian Flores was budding with the owner. The owner was in the news for like going on yachts with Tom Brady, and there was a lot of talk about him. There was dysfunction in Miami. What'd they do? They picked up the phone. They called San Francisco, and they brought in Mike McDaniel. Tua has completely flipped the switch. At one point, it was, how the hell did you take Justin Herbert, or how the hell did you take Tua over Justin Herbert? There were those leaked reports that maybe Brian Flores wanted Justin Herbert instead. This sound familiar? Like what they got going on with Carolina, where now all of a sudden there's reports that maybe Carolina didn't want Bryce Young. They said, oh, well, they brought in Mike McDaniel from San Francisco. Mike McDaniel has got Tua looking really, really good, and the Dolphins haven't looked back. 2023, right here. Houston Texans, one of the worst organizations in sports. Couple years. 2023, pick up the phone. Call another Shanahan guy, D'Amico Ryans. Hey, come save the day. Oh, by the way, let's hire Bobby Slowick, another Shanahan guy, and have him work with CJ Stroud. It worked. You could even go to 2021 if you wish. The Jets, dysfunction, Woody Johnson, Adam Gase, all that crap. Their quarterback situation hadn't even worked out, but they're still fighting their ass off. I think people are pleased with what Robert Saleh's done. Where'd he come from? San Francisco. So that is 100% the way that the most dysfunctional organizations that we've seen, the way they've gotten their way out of trouble, especially when it comes to the Miami Dolphins and the quarterback situation they were in, and you needing someone to work with a quarterback. And that's the best recent example of a QB revival with the coaching hire. Mike McDaniel coming in and coaching Tua. You had Brian Flores and the reports that he didn't want Tua. He wanted Herbert. And now you have the reports that Frank Reich and company didn't want Bryce Young. They wanted CJ Stroud. Instead of sitting there and making the quarterback have to deal with the Brian Flores stuff, they brought in the new guy. Tua looks competent. Miami looks good. Bada bing, bada boom. I say all that to say this. Bobby Slowick, first-year offensive coordinator with the Houston Texans. His offense right now, this is from Patrick Storm at Storm Report on Twitter. Bobby Slowick's offense right now, 14 points per game, 9th in yards per game. He's doing a really good job with CJ Stroud. Frank Reich, it appears that maybe the game has kind of passed him by a little bit. Maybe Jim Irsay knew what he was doing there. I don't think the Colts regret Frank Reich leaving. Should the Carolina Panthers do what many of the dysfunctional organizations in recent NFL history have done and go to Shanahan, guys? It's borderline identical situation with what was going on in Miami. And, oh, by the way, the guy who was drafted after Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, he's doing his thing right here. A lot of us eating crow about it. This is the best crow I've ever had. I'm very much enjoying it, and I'm loving it. But I will say this. You don't want to close the book on the Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud rivalry. And if you are a Texans fan, when you drop to your knees at night, maybe pray that they keep Frank Reich and don't dip into that Shanahan thing that we are reaping the benefits of. They could go Ben Johnson in Detroit, though, but last I checked, that's not a Shanahan guy. Subscribe, like, ride along. Appreciate everyone for coming through. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. No matter what happens with the Texans, whether Carolina Panthers suck or not, We are all in this together. Enjoy the bye week. Enjoy the weekend. This is going to be a fun final 11 games of the season.
Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too plugged in.